it wouldn't be the weekend without some good old poll holding. Am I right, boys? Welcome back in, you guys, to another poll video. I decided to hold 5 polls in regards to God Valley and the future of this Elbaph flashback, just to see what everybody has to say. Where do the votes lie? I think that is important, right? I always say it, but I'm just one guy. I am one vote among the thousands. So that is why I think it's always good to take a step back and see what the majority of people think about these questions and to just hear some different opinions in general. Oh my god, it just spit everywhere. We'll ignore that for now. Getting right into it, hopping right into the first poll. Will we see Shanks versus Loki in this flashback? This might seem out of left field at first, but when you think about it, that's kind of the main reason why Luffy's interested in this flashback in the first place. Luffy would not be with Hijack, Loki, and Scopper if Scopper and Loki did not mention red-haired Shanks. In regards to Shanks, we know that he shows up in 3 different scenarios. The first one is how it started, right? Shanks said he saw King Harold at the Holy Land. We could see more of that. Second up, Scopper said, oh, me and Shanks showed up at the castle the day of the incident, so we could see Shanks there. But of course, the third and final scenario we could see Shanks in would be when Shanks goes off to capture Loki. So, since he captures Loki and brings him back to Elbaph, will we see that actual fight? And of course, when I say Shanks versus Loki, that could just be like a page or 2. It doesn't have to be like a whole like God Valley, you know, Roxy Syvduck versus Garp and Roger kind of thing. No. It could simply just be a page or 2, and then that would be considered, you know, seeing the fight in the flashback. You know, if we just hear about it on the side and we never see them in the same page, then I wouldn't count this at all. So, we got 8,000 votes here, and surprisingly, it's very divided. I was really shocked when I tuned into this and I saw that it was pretty much 50-50. 52% say yes, we will see the fight, whereas 48% say no, we're not going to see the fight. And personally, I think we will. I mean, hell, the purpose of this flashback is to tell us how King Harold dies, right? What happened that fateful day. But let's be real, we're seeing a lot more than just that. We saw the beginnings of Harold, which, I mean, I guess it's important. I'm glad we're getting it. But, you know, Loki really, or I guess the narrator, Oda, they could have skipped all of that and just told us about that one day. But no, didn't happen. We got Loki's birth. We got King Harold's rise to power, his change from a pirate to an actual king. And then it was hijacked by Roxy Syvduck. And then we got the Kuja pirates. We got Roger. We got Garp. We're getting so many different angles that I wouldn't be shocked if we get a lot of Loki in this flashback in his story. Maybe Loki's love interest with Lola. And of course, one of the main things about Loki would be him being captured and sent back to Elbaph, chained up here in the underworld. I do think we will get it. I do not think it is outside the realm of possibility. The only place where I would get hung up is how much of the fight we actually get. Will it simply be like a narrator box, like, oh, Shanks captured Loki, and then it's done? Or will we actually see like a Kamusari attack? Or will we actually see Loki's powers in that flashback when he fights him? Which would be kind of crazy. Imagine Shanks, kind of like the kid fight, Shanks beats Loki before Loki can even interact with them. That would be nuts. That would be too powerful. But yes, let's go into the comment section and see what everybody has to say. The first comment says, oh yeah, this flashback is about Loki. Yeah, easy to forget, man. Very easy to forget. I do not blame anybody if they actually mean this. But yeah, I mean, this flashback, it's been jumping left and right. And at some point, Loki's going to have to hijack it again. This says, I think the most we can hope for is to get a clash. Oda wouldn't want to reveal Loki and Shanks' power in a mere flashback when we are potentially going to see the full power of Loki fighting the Holy Knights. That is true. Which, you know, could go back to the very cursed idea of Shanks one-shotting Loki without Loki even doing anything. Like, oh, man. You know, give him the kid treatment. If Loki got the Eustace kid treatment, I don't know how the community would react. Would we love it because it's Shanks hype? Or would we hate it because it's like, wait, Loki, come on, dude, do something, man. At least for a kid, it's like we know what he's all about. We saw him fight at Wano. But for Loki, it's like, okay, he's showing up with the major L. I don't know. Probably just a glimpse, no details. It happens even after Harold's death, so it will likely be a part of a montage of Loki's moments towards the present. I like that. Yeah, it kind of goes back to like the no category, right? Just, oh, we got like a narrator box saying, oh, like Loki and Shanks, they clashed at sea and Loki lost. Crazy. How we started from Loki's origin, then transitioned to the entirety of God Valley, and now probably to how Harold got Domi reversied. Yep. And I don't think this is going to happen right away, by the way. Because you gotta imagine, right? King Harold gets killed or Domi reversied 14 years from the current story timeline. We're still 38 years in the past. There's a lot that Oda has to, fill in the gaps of. I doubt we'll see the actual fight. Maybe we'll see Loki rampaging for reasons and a silhouette of Shanks in the background and chapter ends or something like that. Oh, the blue ball. Yes, the classic Oda blue ball, 1000%. We're gonna get Loki on an island or maybe like off on the open seas and then Shanks pulls up and then boom, end of chapter, break next week. The Oda classic. I really want side of poll win. We will see the Heaven Realm. Okay. The flashback question mark. A second Elbaph arc after the flashback. Not until the end game, like the destruction of Fishman Island. Never. No. We're gonna get it. So never, I wouldn't even pull that one. I think we're gonna get it pretty soon. Damn. Flashback or no flashback? I will hold the poll on this later if I remember. But if I had to just give you my decision right now without really, thinking too much about it, I don't think we'll get it in the flashback. I think you'll be in the second Elbaph arc. Like maybe there's like a strong fighter up in the Heaven Realm and they come down to help quell the flames. Does that make sense? I mean, it could, right? Yeah, Heaven is coming down to save the underworld, to stop the demons. I feel like, there's so much metaphor there. But as far as like who is up in the Heaven Realm that could actually help us, I don't know, man. If there was actually somebody strong in the Heaven Realm, you'd think that they'd already show up. But then again, I guess One Piece time is kind of funny. Like, we've been in this flashback for so long, but in, One Piece time, it's like maybe 10 minutes. So maybe they will show up. Maybe they will. A scene of it, just as Luffy surpasses Shanks and becomes officially on Roger and his level. In the God Valley flashback, no. And Loki's actual flashback, then yes. Well, okay. I consider this the Elbaph flashback, right? Because what would you even call this? King Harold flashback, God Valley flashback, King Harold flashback part 2, Loki flashback. Like, no, I just consider it one big flashback. Especially since there was like no hard cuts to the present. I'd consider it all together. Yes, but the fight itself will probably be off-screened. I think we still have another half of Elbaph to get through before getting to that story. Another half of Elbaph. One clash and a fade to black. That's all I can cover. Oda probably. It's up to Toei. They can handle that. Yeah, I'll send them my notes. Toei can animate that later. I want to, but I don't think so. We won't get the fight because if they show it, it will spoil Loki's power we are waiting for. We will definitely see it. A lot of people are forgetting this is Loki's flashback and backstory. We went from adult Loki to Harold to kid Loki to Syvduck. I'm pretty sure we're going back to adult Loki. Shanks versus a big plot point of him being locked up. If we don't get the full fight, then we must get a sneak of it. Honestly, even without how sad Loki's upbringing was, and even excluding the entire God Valley incident, if we see Harold's death and how Loki was locked up by Shanks, it's still the best flashback. This is a good flashback. I do want to sit on it for a little bit, and of course it has to end first, but I'm trying to like compare it to other flashbacks we've gotten in this series. And I'd say this is among like one of the best. And it's tough because if I say that, people are going to be like, oh, recency bias. But it's like, wait a minute. God Valley, Roger, Garp, Rocks, Blackbeard's dad, Davy Clan, Emu, like there is a lot here. You know what I mean? So I think overall, this is a really good flashback. 50-50 on whether or not we'll see it. I am leaning towards yes more than no. But there is a chance Oda could just, like they said, fade to black, clash. Done. Moving on. I have seen some people saying, though, we didn't see any of the comments here, but I have seen a handful of people saying that Shanks wasn't the one who beat Loki and that it was actually Shamrock. I don't think that's the case. I feel like that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever, especially since Loki directly refers to Shanks as Shanks. And the minute he saw Shamrock, he's like, hey, who are you? Why do you look like Shanks? I feel like there's a separation there. So yeah, I do not agree vehemently that Shamrock was the one who fought Loki and brought him back to Elbaph, which is also odd, right? Okay, so Shamrock beat Loki, went out of his way to fight him for Elbaph, and then brought him back to Elbaph, and then let him be locked up here. Like, I feel like that wouldn't make sense. On to the second poll. Will we see Buggy in this flashback? Very random, huh? Buggy? What the hell? Granted, if you clicked on the video, you saw the thumbnail. Buggy and Shanks are the main guys there. But yes, I asked this question mainly because Shanks and Buggy, they're a duo queue, right? It's essentially your bot lane, ADC, and support. Buggy definitely on the support side, and I feel like we don't get one without the other. Especially recently, right? Buggy's like, oh, I wanted Shanks to be king of the pirates. I wanted to sail with Shanks. And then Shanks is like, oh, you know, I just wanted to go out to sea with Buggy, but here I am, child of destiny. They are like this. Would not be shocked if we get them as kids. I wouldn't be shocked if we get a semi-Buggy origin story. I think very well, like how this flashback got hijacked by Syvduck, I think this flashback, it's not out of the realm of possibility that it gets hijacked by Shanks. I think everybody would love that. Nobody would mind it. And of course, eventually, we will have to see more about Shanks. Why not here? We saw Shanks as a baby. We're spending time with his father. Or at least, you know, you hope we spend time with Garling. So why not? You know, maybe we do see Shanks' upbringing. We see him meeting Buggy for the first time. Next chapter, we could see Roger opening the chest and seeing Shanks there in the first place. I think we could get Buggy here easily. And of course, you know, we don't know when Buggy joins. So it's like, hey, maybe they also find another baby and it's Buggy. That would be crazy. So 31% say yes, we will see Buggy, whereas 69% say no, we will not. I love this sad clown picture, man. I was gonna put a clown girl, but I was afraid that'd be like clickbait, right? Like, oh, here's a sexy clown cosplayer. People just click that for fun. So here we go. I want a Buggy flashback, but knowing Oda, he is probably going to put it in an SBS. I don't know, dude. Like I said, Buggy and Shanks, they're very important characters. And Buggy, while this doesn't always matter, Oda said explicitly that two characters were his favorites. One of them was Gaimon, which, you know, kind of irrelevant. But we did see him during the Vegapunk broadcast. And the second character was Buggy. And Buggy, Oda has been propping him up, right? He's falling upwards and upwards and upwards. Nobody really thought he'd be a Yonko at this point of the story, but here he is. You know, Oda really gives a lot of flowers to the clown. And we can't forget, Buggy is supposed to be based off of one of the most OG villains in One Piece, Spiel. He was the main villain in Romance Dawn. It was this clown, weird magic guy. Oda and clowns, man, he is cooking something weird up there. Buggy is literally a Yonko, sailed on Roger's ship, helped Luffy escape Impel Down, has Mihawk as his first mate, and was best friends with Shanks. You'd have to be an idiot to think there's not going to be a Buggy flashback of sorts. Yes, I do think we will get it. I guess the main, you know, contention with this question, if it's in this flashback, right? The Elbaph flashback. I think the main reason why this looks good, you know, aside from Shanks, is because we've been following Roger. And of course, we did see a young Buggy on Roger's ship. So if we do spend more time with Roger, that is how we could see Buggy here. He'll show up to delete God Valley from existence with his Buggy balls, assuming bro is around the same age as Shanks. Not sure why we would. Assuming he's the same age as Shanks, not sure why we would. I mean, to be fair, we saw Shanks. You know, we saw Shanks. I mean, that's a pretty good reason. Depends on Rox's ties. Like, we'll see lots of Shanks, but mainly post-Roger Crew Shanks, like, no Buggy stuff. It depends. You know, post-Roger would mean that we're skipping, what, like, 24 years into the future from 38 years in the past. So it's like, yeah, like, I don't think it's crazy to see, like, the in-betweens, right? Like, after God Valley, Roger is sailing a little bit, Garp is sailing. They're both making moves or, you know, deciding on what to do with the WG, with Rox's death. So maybe that's where we could see Buggy. During God Valley, no. But I think after it, Shanks will spend his first few years in Elbaph growing up alongside Loki and Hiruden. Growing up alongside Loki and Hiruden. Think about it. There's always been a connection between Shanks and Giants, that is true. And making he and Loki know each other as children would make their later battles more meaningful. So I think Shanks will be in Elbaph until he's around 7 years old or so. Also, we have two characters to raise Shanks in his early days, Gloriosa and Shaki, who are leaving in Roger's ship, but never became his crewmates. Then, when Roger comes to get Shanks and he becomes an apprentice, there will be Buggy as another kid apprentice in the crew. So we will see him and Shanks meeting for the first time. I do think we will see the first meeting of Shanks and Buggy. As far as Roger dropping Shanks off, I don't think that's bad. But we do know that Gloriosa and Shaki, the only other island we heard them on was Subodhi. Like, Gloriosa was at Subodhi with Shaki for a while, and then they found the Boa Hancock sisters, and that's when Gloriosa brought them back to Amazon Lily. And then Shaki, of course, stayed at Subodhi. So if that's the case, then Shanks wouldn't have been raised on Elbaph if he's with those two. So that's definitely a tough one. And another thing that's rough as well is that I can't really see the Roger Pirates seeing a baby in a chest and saying, hey, let's raise this lad. So I do like your idea of Gloriosa and Shaki raising Shanks off of the crew, but that would put him at Subodhi, unless they do just go to Elbaph, and that's like a brand new thing. You know, this could be a brand new plot point in general. Huh. Yeah, not a bad idea. I like this. I like this. It's a different angle than what I would have thought. Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Johnny. I mean, he's the same age as Shanks and joins Roger's crew somehow. I hope it's shown here, at least briefly, then elaborated on later. I know people think Oda is going to rush the story, but he's 100% showing Roger, Garp, Shanks, and Mihawk flashback, at least plus the Void Sentry, so he might as well throw Buggy in there too. Just depends on how much Oda wants to put into the final saga. At the start of the flashback, I would have said yes, but probably not anymore. Funny you say that, because I feel the opposite. I feel like the more we've gotten out of this flashback, the more I feel like we could get Buggy, just because we pivoted so much, right? You know, if it's just King Harold, it's like, oh, cool, like, you know, I can't really see Buggy coming here. And then now that it's like, you know, Xebec, God Valley, Garling, Shamrock, Shanks, Teach, it's like, you know, Buggy doesn't sound super crazy. Do I think Buggy is a God Valley baby? No. I'm not ruling it out, but I've seen people saying, oh, you know, we find Buggy at God Valley, and I don't necessarily agree with that theory yet. I do like it, but it's like, okay, how does that even fit in? Like, what would that mean? Like, there's just another baby here? Like, somebody lost another child? I don't know. We still have at least 4 to 6 chapters left, but I think Oda will want to focus on the central parts of the flashback on Harold's death and Loki. Yeah, if I had to put a number to it, I'd say we have 10 chapters left of this flashback. Just because I feel like there's so much to cover. Maybe I'm underestimating how much these chapters do go around. I'd say 7 chapters. Just to go like a little bit above, 7 chapters. 3 dedicated to King Harold joining the world government. And then the 4th one would be King Harold's death. 5th one would be Loki running. 6th would be Shanks chasing after Loki. And then 7th... Okay, maybe I'm cooked. Maybe it is 6, actually. If Oda were to let us see Buggy's flashback, then it would be flashy. Maybe. Depends on if in this flashback, the Roger Pirates pick up Buggy as a baby too, right after God Valley, after they find Shanks in the chest, but I highly doubt it. They probably picked Buggy up later. I can't think that the Roger Pirates had 2 babies with them at the same time. Crazy how we have, like, no info on Buggy, by the way. You know, Shanks, we at least knew, you know, the whole treasure chest thing, God Valley, Roger had him as a baby. But here it's like Buggy, he's kind of like this black hole or void of information. We don't really know much about him at all. And then, you know, I don't want to, like, change topics too heavily, but the nose, brother, what the hell is going on with his nose? We still don't know. It's real. So does that mean he's a part of a special clan? Or is it just like a deformality? Like, I have no clue. I have no clue at all. Also, deformity. I said deformality. 50-50. Maybe. Not this flashback, but he will definitely do it, being as he is a Yonko. We'll probably get him, Mihawk, and Croc flashback in one, seeing as they're all working together. That'd be kind of funny. Like, they all do something, and then boom, flashback at him, flashback at him, flashback at him, but it's all, like, super disjointed. Like, none of them really connect, aside from, like, the current day stuff. Huh. No, Buggy. We'll have a flash forward instead. Don't be reversing Loki for Elbaph Big Boss. Will we see Buggy in what flashback? What? We already have. Oh, like he's in God Valley. In this flashback, I don't think so, but the story's sure. I think Rox is Buggy. Whoever Buggy's parents are, they will end up being important somehow. Oda isn't going to give Luffy, Shanks, and Blackbeard special lineages and not Buggy. Yeah, I kind of agree with this in an odd way. Like, Buggy, already is special, in my opinion, with the nose. So, like, yeah, I could see his lineage being special. I think Buggy's not a Davy, so no. I think he's a descendant of Lily. Probably not. Also, this theory right here, descendant of Lily. I have seen this popping up more and more, mainly because of the blue hair, right? Blue hair is like the staple of the Nefertari family. Is it a coincidence that they have blue hair? I think it could just be a coincidence. Like, I don't know if Oda really thought that hard about it, you know, when he first crafted Buggy. But if he wanted to go that route, I wouldn't hate it. Also, after thinking about it a little bit more, I do think that Roger will drop Shanks off with Gloriosa and Shaggy, if not somebody else entirely. Because let's be real here, these guys are straight pirates. They have no time to raise a baby that is not one of the crews. So I wouldn't be shocked if, yes, we do drop Shanks off at an island. Is it Elbaph though? I'm not too sure. I do put more weight on maybe just Amazon Lily or Saboti with Shaggy and Gloriosa. Or perhaps maybe they know where Buggy's at and they just drop him off at an orphanage. Either way, I just can't imagine Roger feeding a child formula, or, ooh, here's Gloriosa just squeezing her titties for Shanks. I can't see that on the crew. And then, of course, imagine they go on a raid. What do they do with Shanks? Do they have a crib that they put him in for safekeeping? What if the Roger pirates all die at sea? Does the baby just die? I feel like there's a lot of logistical nightmares for having Shanks aboard the crew throughout his entire childhood. When he turns like 6, 7, or 8, yes, sure. But I feel like for these early years, we might have to drop him off with somebody else. Will we see Mihawk during this flashback? And surprise, surprise, more people said no to Mihawk than Buggy. What? Here we go. 13% say yes, he will make an appearance, whereas 87% say no, he won't be in it. Which is crazy because I kind of swing the opposite here, where it's like, I feel like Buggy, first up, I do think we will see him, but I would rather say no to Buggy and yes to Mihawk. And the main reason why is, maybe I'm crazy. I've made like videos on this already, but I think Mihawk could be a celestial dragon. Maybe not legitimate, maybe he's like a bastard son, so that's why, you know, we saw him in rags as a kid. Maybe that's why he doesn't like hunting rabbits with the cannon. There's so many things about Mihawk that could tie to celestial dragons. And one of my favorite tie-ins with Mihawk and celestial dragons is one of his named attacks, which is 16 new moons. And it's like, yo, 16 new moons? Well, I mean, we have like the 16 holy bullets from Doflamingo, and he's a celestial dragon. We also have celestial dragons shooting people 16 times, the Oxloid bell being rung 16 times. Like, I feel like Mihawk is it. And aside from like the celestial dragon route, right? Let's say he's not a celestial dragon. Shanks is in this flashback. We know that Shanks will make an appearance. And the version of Shanks that is making an appearance, that is two-armed, capable swordsman Shanks, which was essentially Mihawk's favorite opponent. I would not be shocked. And maybe I'm crazy. But I think we could see a clash here. I do think we could see a clash or some dialogue. You know, maybe while Shanks and King Harold are at the Holy Land, Mihawk is there too, and he's like, hey, Shanks, let's fight again. You know, let's fight one more time. Let's see who the better swordsman is. Or maybe like while he's out looking for Loki, Shanks is like, hey, Mihawk, I don't have time for you right now. I gotta hunt the Kingslayer. I do think Mihawk could easily slip in here, and this is something a lot of people want too. Or at least I think so, right? Because this is Zoro's final goal. Mihawk is a prominent player. And it's like, yo, we know nothing about him. When you think about Mihawk, you probably just think of Vista. Right? Like, if not Shanks, you think of Vista. And it's like, okay, we need more from this dude. And when are we ever going to get it? Is it going to be during the Zoro versus Mihawk fight? Maybe. But I wouldn't be shocked if Oda just slipped in a little crumb during the Elbaph flashback, like, hey, he's at the Holy Land, or, ooh, this is him fighting two-armed Shanks, and, you know, that fight's going crazy. And then plus, Whitebeard did talk about how he's heard stories about their legendary fights. Whitebeard was in this flashback, maybe he, like, hears about it for the first time ever, like, oh, like, they're all doing their own pirate stuff now, and Whitebeard reads the newspaper, and it's them fighting. Like, I feel like he could easily slip in, like a thief in the night. But look at the poll results, though. I am in the minority here. 13% versus 87. Let's read them. Mihawk was born 4 years before the God Valley incident. Yes. I don't know what this is trying to imply, but yes, Mihawk is alive. That is why he could be here, right? Kind of like how Shanks was a baby and he showed up here. And then plus we do have to know. I don't know if this is like aiming for a yes or no vote. But because he's so young and because we know that we're going to fast forward in this flashback to present day, yeah, he could very well show up. You know, as a teenager, as a young adult, he could definitely be here. He's alive. Brother, I'm still processing how we only got half a glimpse at Bogard. Yeah, he's irrelevant. Yeah, Bogard being relevant, that's something. If Mihawk is a prodigy like Itachi Uchiha, he might be somewhere in the background of this God Valley Island chaos. Since we eventually have to cover Shanks meeting Harold, and the reason Loki hates Shanks, I think we will get a Mihawk mention, because that's really all Shanks is famous for pre-Yonko title. So it's probably just going to be a mention of something like, oh wow, you're red-haired Shanks, who can even go toe-to-toe with the world's strongest swordsman. Yeah. Like I said, easily slip in here. It could even be a one-liner like this, like, hey, like I heard about your fight with Mihawk, or ooh, what would be really cool? This should be around Mihawk's Marine Hunter era. Maybe we hear from Garp's POV, and they're like, hey, Garp, have you heard about this Mihawk guy going around killing Marines? Yeah, that's some scary stuff, brother. That is horrifying. If he is a celestial dragon, we should see him when Harold meets Shanks at Marijois. That's my mindset. Not because it is unmerited. It just doesn't have anything to do with him. I believe Mihawk is like Neo in The Matrix and Anomaly. To be fair, though, most characters feel like anomalies until they're not. But comparing him to Neo from The Matrix is kind of cool. Apparently, we already saw him last chapter based on how this fan base have been behaving. Dude, the Mihawk memes, I don't know what it is. I feel like I've seen more Mihawk memes coming off of this last chapter than anything else. The only way to do that and have it actually be interesting is if we see an adult Mihawk in the flashback adding to the vampire theory. Nah, Mihawk is going to have a flashback for real, just not in this flashback. Yeah, to be fair though, being in this flashback doesn't negate you getting a flashback later. Like, we could see Shanks here, right? But we could also still get more Shanks flashback later down the road too. Possibly. People seem to forget that we're still not done with this flashback since we haven't even finished the Herald part of this flashback, which is what it was supposed to be originally. I've been saying since before we got to God Valley, this will be the Shanks flashback. As much as we want it, we won't get this flashback till after Elbaph, if at all. We might possibly see him if the manga goes to Shanks versus Loki flashback after Harold's death. Bruh, Mihawk will only come to the backstory when it's time, for those legendary duels of 16-year-old Shanks and 20-year-old Mihawk, which could happen in this flashback, right? Because we will be fast-forwarding a lot. I think people forget that, right? They see that we're at God Valley, and they're like, oh, we're 38 years in the past. Well, brother, we're going to keep on going, right? We're going to keep on amping up until the day King Harold dies, and then until possibly when Loki gets captured, which only was 6 years ago from the current storyline. Might not be Mihawk, but maybe his parents. Who knows? That'd be cool. Yeah, if we go down the route of Mihawk being a celestial dragon, which, you know, not everybody likes that theory. I understand that. But if we were to go down that route, I am leaning towards him being from either the Nerona family, which is the most popular one, or just the Bavettes. And the reason I say Bavettes is mainly because of God Valley. We heard that the Figarlands were number 1, but then the Bavettes were right behind them in terms of points. And it's like, huh, number 1 and number 2, right? That kind of reminds me of like the feud between like Mihawk and Shanks. Like maybe that's a thing. So like, you know, Mihawk is from the Bavette family. And interestingly enough, we never saw the Bavette family here at God Valley. Oda mentioned them by name. We never saw them. Instead, we got Garling, we got St. Somers, we got Gunko, we got Saint Satchel. Like, we got so many people, but we did not get the Bavette family. I wonder why. I simply want this flashback ended. Thinking about too many more characters making an appearance to sort of hype me up is not what I want. I want this flashback to end. Thinking about too many characters making an appearance to sort of hype me up is not what I want. I'm not too sure what this means. Like, we get too many good characters, so it's like, oh god, I'm exploding everywhere. It's not November, Oda, please. Like, is it like one of those things? We miss all the Loki and Loki vs. Shanks backstory, so I hope so. He'll be the one that chops Saturn's ship in half. Yeah, he just comes around busting ships. I think he's low-key an end-of-story character, and I'm betting all my chips the next flashback we will get will be a Mihawk flashback. Well, I think Oda will tell us Shanks' entire backstory through this flashback, and Mihawk has to be in it. Loki is telling the story, so at some point he's going to mention Shanks and how Shanks beat him and put him down here. So I would assume / hope Mihawk gets a name drop or makes an appearance. He's not important for the story. He's just a placeholder for Zora. Well, you say that, but then again, he's like a part of Cross Guild now, so he's becoming relevant. He's becoming relevant. Mihawk is in another chest. The Shanks rivalry already began at God Valley. Imagine that. Like, one chest is gold, one is silver, and it's like, oh, which baby's in which? That'd be crazy. So, on to the next one. This is a big one. How many chapters do we have left of God Valley? Last we saw, Rox was seemingly defeated. So, what's next? Will we see Rayleigh and Scopper tend to Roger and Garp? Are the God Knights still here? Are we going to see the pirates actually leaving the island on their ships that they're stealing? I have no clue. And then, of course, like, how does Emu destroy God Valley? There's a lot, well, okay, quote a lot, we still could get covered. So, we polled it. 37% say 1 chapter, 43% say 2 chapters, but only 20% say 3 or more chapters. Personally, I hope we get 2. I've been coping for these guys for a long time now, if you know me. The God Knights, man, they gotta do something. Surely Garling is done regenerating, and he's gonna fight Scopper or Rayleigh at least. Maybe the God Knights are going after the remnants of the Rock's pirates as we speak. You know, maybe whatever Emu's doing to destroy God Valley takes a while to wind up. I don't want to leave yet. And then another thing we could get, of course, we could get Rox's final speech. While Rox did go down last chapter, he hasn't disintegrated into dust yet. So he could very well come back into consciousness and tell Roger and Garp a little something about the world or his plan or the devil fruits he needs. I think he could pass down the wheel, so to speak, and that would eat up a good chunk of a chapter. So I am leaning towards 2. That is my ideal. But the logical side of me does just say 1 chapter, right? Oda might want to speed it up a little bit. He's like, hey, gotta get to King Harold now, so maybe 1 chapter is it. But ideally, I'm banking on 2. This says 2 chapters for Barbell. Okay, and Barbell. I didn't want to name drop Barbell here. I'm trying to treat it like Voldemort. Like, okay, if I don't mention him, maybe Oda will just bring him into the story. So, yeah, 2 chapters for Barbell. Maybe 5 for Barbell. Who knows? 1 chapter of God Valley plus the rest of the year to wrap up the Loki Herald flashback. We're done with the God Valley flashback. We're going to the Herald flashback. How many of y'all forget about Herald already? I don't think anybody forgot about Herald. I think we all know that we have to get back to him. But at the same time, we spent a lot of time with Rox, right? We spent a lot of time with that guy. So if we got like 1 or 2 more chapters, it's like, no big deal. I could honestly see it being half a chapter, if only 1 to close. Less than a chapter, and we will end off being back in Elbaph. 2 more sounds fair. Next chapter, we will probably see Barbell leaving the island or Whitebeard and Polo. Also, Rayleigh and Gabon figure out how to stop regeneration by fighting a Holy Knight. And the following chapter would be to show how God Valley was erased. It's like 2 to 4 max. At most, it'll be the first half of the next chapter showing Rayleigh and Gabon saving Roger and Garp, as well as perhaps Rox's true fate. Then the second half of the chapter is focused on Elbaph. Yeah, for me at least, I think I might be underestimating how much Oda can cover in a single chapter. But if he moves fast, this could very well be it right here. Oda is still going to introduce a new character in the story. That Herald guy is somehow important to the flashback. I hope the 1 to 2 chapters don't happen and we just jump back to Herald's death. There's a long ways to go before we get to Herald's death. We're not getting to this anytime soon. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we get this in like 2026. King Harold's death, we got a good amount we got to build up to before we get there. I feel like we need 1 chapter, maybe half a chapter, because at the end of the day, we don't know how Roger and Garp make it out, and where Emu is, and what they have to say about this. Yeah, Emu didn't really say much. I thought that Emu would just, I don't know, lore drop about the Davy clan, maybe have like an internal monologue, talk to the Gorosei, the God Knights or something. But so far, Emu has been more or less mute after the Rox convo. So it's like, maybe we do get like a 4-on-1. Maybe he like throws like a little meeting and is like, hey, Gorosei, God Knights, meeting time, about God Valley now. You guys kind of sucked. I did all the work. 0 chapters, Loki, flashback time. I don't think we're just going to get 0. I feel like we need the wrap up, right? Like, imagine we go to the next chapter, and it's like, boom, no Rock's death, no Roger Garb leaving the island, no Scopper Rayleigh, just boom, King Harold and Loki. I guess it would be shocking, yeah. And then they'd read it through the newspaper, but the newspaper doesn't tell you all the details. So maybe Harold goes for himself. I guess that could be a way it works, right? King Harold reads the newspaper about God Valley, and then he's so curious about his friend's fate that he travels there, and then we get like a weird continuation of God Valley. That could be it. Kind of like how we got, Dr. Vegapunk and Dragon going to O'Hara, and we learned what happened at O'Hara afterwards. Maybe that's how we find out what happened to God Valley. King Harold goes there, and then he's like, what the hell? The island's missing. Or, oh my god, there's like a hole in the sea. Or, oh my god, this zombie dude is turning it into a ship. That could be kind of fun. I feel like that is a good way to get out of God Valley fast, back to King Harold, but also wrap up God Valley. That could be like a weird, like, threefer. I keep forgetting, we still gotta finish Harold's story. A couple of panels, maybe around half a chapter, then jump to King Harold. One wrap-up chapter for God Valley, plus 3 more to conclude the flashback as a whole. 1 for God Valley, and many, many more for the overall flashback. Remember how it took 6 chapters to wrap up Odin's flashback after getting to Laugh Tale. We can't just skip over what's going to be the emotional core of the arc. This isn't the God Valley arc or the flashback. We'll have the rest of the year in Harold and Loki territory with 4 to 6 chapters. Yes, that is true, but to be fair, this is only pertaining to the God Valley portion, not exactly the King Harold and Loki aspect. Come on, Bogart, do something, bro. Dude, imagine that. We get a whole chapter dedicated to Bogart and Barbell. Call it the BB chapter. We haven't got the Gunko Brook flashback yet, yeah. I mean, but that's very, like, outside of this, though, to be fair. That's like, in the future. 2 pages. Then back to Harold stuff. 2 pages. I'm curious, man. Spoilers should be coming out in the next couple of days. I'm so curious. Like, what is Oda gonna do? A half chapter to conclude God Valley, and then it'll pan back to Harold. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people aren't even saying 1 chapter. Maybe I should have put, like, the no chapter rather, like, half a chapter here. I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm surprised, like, half a chapter is kind of, like, winning if I were to pull it, maybe. Let me see here. 1 more comment. 1 chapter more of God Valley, a world overview chapter, then 3 to 5 of Loki and Harold. We'll probably get a closing statement for God Valley if the end of the last chapter wasn't that, but then it returns to Harold. Harold's story isn't over, so they'll go back to that. But 1 more to wrap up God Valley. Yep. It looks like 1 is the consensus, but 2 kind of won the votes, though, which is always funny, right? It's always interesting whenever we see, like, these poll results, and it's like, okay, the majority is saying this, but, like, half of the comments we read, at least the ones near the top, right? Because I'm not going to go down to, like, the very, very bottom. We'd be here forever. But the top comments usually advocate for the minority, which is kind of interesting. So, last poll right here. How will Emu erase God Valley? I put down 4 options. I'm sure there's more out there, but here we go. The first option says that God Valley is not gone, and it's simply just not on the maps. They stopped selling atlases with God Valley's location. The second option says Lelucia weapon. The third is a Buster Call, and then the fourth just says other. So, Emu has marked it off the map. So this is pretty much confirmed right here, but he could go beyond that and actually just delete the island with the Lelucia weapon. The problem with the Lelucia weapon is that he needs the mother fuel to fuel it. But there's a caveat. We don't know how much fuel was left in the tank. Maybe there was just enough left before he needed Vegapunk so that he could destroy God Valley. Like, he was saving that one last shot for all these years. God Valley happens, and then he's like, okay, now I'm gonna blow it up. And now I'm gonna hit like 0% fuel. And then that is why they needed Vegapunk shortly afterwards. That could be it. As far as Buster Call goes, this one is an interesting one because God Valley is pretty much already torn asunder. And then we've seen what a Buster Call has done to O'Hara, and it doesn't delete an island, it just destroys buildings. Because O'Hara, brother, like, Dragon, Dr. Vegapunk, the Giants, like, a lot of people visited O'Hara afterwards, and they even saved the books that were in the lake. So a Buster Call would just feel a little bit silly, and that would also mean that the island is still there. As far as other goes, I don't know what this could mean. Maybe this is leaning towards Gecko Moria taking over God Valley. Like, Emu didn't erase it. Well, okay, he erased it from the map, but then Gecko Moria took the island and then freaking made it into a ship. As far as I go, it's tough. I lean towards Lelucia weapon, but we do have to, like, spin headcanon here and say that Emu had enough fuel left before he needed Vegapunk. That's, like, the one thing about the Lelucia weapon theory that doesn't fit yet. But let's see. The WG needed a piece of Vegapunk Mother Flame to power the ancient weapon, so it can't be Lelucia. I'm assuming somebody's going to say what I said here. Yeah, unless God Valley used the last fuel. Okay, thank you. I was wondering if somebody would say this. I actually am starting to think that they just took it off the maps. Yeah, we do know that they 100% took it off the maps, but they could have gone a step further just because it's Davy Clan, right? Maybe if this was any other Celestial Dragon hunting tournament, they, you know, just erase it off the map and it's whatever. But because it's the Davy Clan's headquarters, they're like, no, let's actually, you know, destroy it. I think the God Knights will perform some type of magic that will probably require all of them, because I don't think Emu would nuke his own God Knights, especially when they expand his reach. You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I think it would be really cool if the God Knights were actually doing that on the sidelines. Like, oh, they weren't missing, they were simply destroying the island, which I think is fascinating because Garling, when he first came to pick up Shanks and Shamrock and he killed his wife, he said, hey, this island will no longer exist soon. So Garling knew the fate of this island well beforehand. So what does that mean? Was Emu always just going to simply, you know, mark it off? Or does Garling know something else? Loki, a Buster Call after everything that went down is like bringing sand to a beach. Yeah, that's why I think the Buster Call route is so funny. Like, hey, now that all that has happened, now that all the mountains have been blown up by, you know, Roger, Garb, Zebek, and Whitebeard, time to Buster Call, guys. Boom, let's send some cannonballs over there. Like, that seems so goofy, especially when a Buster Call doesn't even destroy an island. Yes, it kills everybody on the island, but the people on the island we're talking about, that's, you know, Garp, Roger, and Zebek. And then it's like, yeah, like, the island's still gonna be there. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, one more thing we have to keep in mind, by the way. One thing that makes not gone just off the map sound really good. Like, I think this could be the winner here. But we got to remember that Shanks, when he talked to Whitebeard, when they were first, like, shown together, Shanks brought Whitebeard sake from his hometown, from the West Blue. God Valley is in the West Blue. So it's like, wait, did Shanks actually visit God Valley at some point? So does that mean it still exists, but it's just hard to find because it is just off the map? Like, I think there's not really a bad theory here, in my opinion. Minus Buster, but Buster Call is just so silly to me. But besides Buster Call, I do like all these routes. It's actually Laughtail and Barbell and Sunbell are there waiting for the actual final opponents. Don't get my hopes up. Emu didn't vaporize O'Hara, proving they're fine with just deleting islands off the maps. Huh. I'd say O'Hara's a little bit different. Because O'Hara, it was public knowledge that they were like demons, right? They wanted to send a message like, hey, don't research the poneglyphs or you will end up like O'Hara. As far as God Valley goes, this is them actually, you know, doing evil deeds. You know, they can't exactly pin the blame on the David clan. It's not like the David clan were researching the poneglyphs, so I think that's why there's a difference here between O'Hara. Definitely think part of the mountains that fell will end up being Thriller Bark. That would also explain how some of the Rocks Pirates' corpses ended up there too. But one thing to keep in mind is that none of the Rocks Pirates we saw at Thriller Bark died here at God Valley. Ganzui, so far, you know, maybe that changes next chapter, made it out alive. And then there's also Gil Bastar, he makes it out alive. And then Captain John, he doesn't die till like way later. So yeah, that's a tough one. Emu is gonna spam down low kick in the corner. I wish. You know, I wish Emu just had some sort of power where they're like, okay, I'm gonna destroy this. Like, they whip out the magic book, and then they're the ones to do it. I think there'd be so much aura. Always like the theory of Thriller Bark being God Valley, since it would explain all the dead Rocks Pirates Moria has. Yeah, but we just gotta see them die here now. That is the main thing. Vegapunk seemed to imply that the Mother Flame was responsible for whatever destroyed Lelucia, so I'm surprised to hear so many people think that it was responsible for also destroying God Valley, long before the Mother Flame even existed. That being said, Lelucia left a hole that is strikingly similar to what Eni's lobby looked like. What are these holes? Where do they lead? How is the sea level rising, but also draining in the giant holes? Furthermore, where is all that extra water coming from? Maybe Eni's lobby was done by the Ancient Kingdom Void Sentry tech that the Mother Flame replicates. Not sure on that. Either way, I'm going with them still there. Just no map for now. And yeah, this is a good point too, right? We're assuming Eni's lobby was destroyed via the Lelucia weapon. Like, the hole is pretty much 1-to-1. So if that's the case, I mean, you know, them having leftover energy to destroy God Valley, not absurd, unless it simply happened, you know, like the commenter says, 900 years ago. Kind of a different poll. But now, I also really don't think God Valley is Thriller Bark. It's a fun theory, especially with the Rocks Pirates all being gathered here, ready for Moria already, but it's starting to look like most of them escaped. Even besides all of that, the logistics of turning a fixed island into God Valley into a portable ship just doesn't make sense. Okay, this is the last part. Yes, I agree with you all the way. But this last part, it did happen though, right? Like, Moria has been stated to actually turn a West Blue Island into a ship. So yes, the logistics don't make sense, but it has happened. And we can't forget, but Iceberg and Galley Law, they're trying to do the exact same thing. If they hired Moria, that would be big for them. Like, we have all these theories that Moria goes to Cross Guild. He joins Cross Guild. He makes Marine corpses dance, you know. He's over here working with Crocodile, Mihawk, and Buggy, and Doflamingo, and all of them. Chapter 0. But if he goes to Water 7, he could actually flex his talents. I'm not gonna lie. I think the narrator already told us how, erasing all records of the island's existence. Also, Shanks said he got a soccer from his hometown in the West Blue, so I wonder if that is what it's about. Yeah, that is why I think, you know, going up here, I think this is where I'm at right now, but if they really wanted to just clear the table, I think Lelucia weapon is great. I do not think there's like a 0% chance for this. So yeah, I lean towards the first two. Buster Call, not so much. Fourth option, the only real one we saw was just this right here. Like, oh, the God Knights do something, or maybe Moria steals it. But yeah, I don't think there's a bad option here, minus Buster Call, really. Buster Call just seems so goofy, man. Like, it is true. It's like bringing sand to a beach. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, all right, island-ending pirates all on the island. How do we get rid of the island? I guess we just throw some cannonballs their way. No. That's crazy. If that happens, if Emu orders a Buster Call, he would lose aura. He really would. Like, Emu says, okay, time to just get rid of everything. Boop. Marines, send your balls over. No, Emu, no! But yeah, with that being said, though, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this video. I really freaking appreciate it. Let me know what you thought about all these comments and polls down below, and we might be back doing another poll video pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. If you have the time, please be sure to check out my side channels right over here. I got Syvduck, SYVDUCK. I post gameplay videos, recommendations, reactions, etc. all over there. And then I also have Somnus Reacts, where I react to anime explicitly. So if you have the time, or if you're interested in that, please click over there. Well, okay, it's not clickable, but you can YouTube search it and it'll work just fine. Yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day.